we've got to talk in more depth about Cole Palmer. Because he is the first player ever in Premier League history to score 3 first-half hat-tricks. That's now 4 Premier League hat-tricks for Chelsea, Jace, overtaking Super Frank, Didier Drogba, Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. They all got 3. This is actually remarkable, and I actually think it's a little bit underrated that he's already scored 4 Chelsea hat-tricks. He's only been at the club for a couple of years.
Yeah, his goal-scoring record per appearance is pretty high. I think it's 1 in 2.
Yeah, it's 1 in 2.
You know, he's gone through a little bit of a difficult period on the back of being the best player of the Club World Cup, coming into this season, and then that injury. He hasn't quite got his season up and running, you know, and now we're like, he's coming up to the middle of Feb soon, and that next international squad is going to be picked in 3-4 weeks' time-ish, something like that. I feel for him because the performances have not been of the standard that he would expect of himself and that we expect as Chelsea fans, but there are mitigating circumstances. There is a caveat to that. The fact that he has carrying that injury, they are trying to nurse him through it. You know, there are games that he's on the bench where he'd rather him start, but this is a really crucial period for him, and I'm delighted that he got himself another hat-trick because even though they're 2 pens, they still count.
Well, that's what I mean. What's nice about it is being critical of a player in terms of it wasn't as good as his other hat-trick. You know what I mean?
Some players can't do that, can they, Tobes?
Like,
they can't.
I mean, two of those 4 hat-tricks, he got 4.
Yeah.
Like, this is the calibre of player we're talking about in terms of he gets a hat-trick looking and you go, yeah, this one's not as good as those ones.
It's like at the start of the season, do you remember when he did that thing? He was like, they were like, can you do 3 goals for a hat-trick? And he said, what about 4? Yeah. And then he scored 4 twice.
Yeah, I mean, it was that Brighton one, I remember, where he got 4 and you felt at the end of the game, he could have walked away with 6 in that game. And he had it was like the passing he was putting together that we're not quite seeing there at the moment yet, but he was clinical at the weekend. Yeah. And that's what we need. You know, we need Cole Palmer firing if we want to do anything serious this season, really. Yeah,
and I think his celebration said a lot as well. It wasn't just it was that as well. And I think that is to do with all of the noise that's come out recently about him not being happy. We all knew it was rubbish. We all knew he's very happy at Chelsea. That just a little bit of frustration there. You could tell with the celebration, the way he responded as if to be like, what are you all talking about? And he came out after the game and basically said, you're all talking rubbish sometimes.
Yeah, I think, and we're going back to that, because on a personal level for him, you know, I know what it's like when you're injured and you can't get yourself back fit. It does, there's so much on your mind. And when he does come on, and he's expected, will be the Cole Palmer you were 18 months ago. Where is this Cole Palmer? It's hard just to flick a switch, especially when you come back from an injury, especially when you had so much football. And that football, by the way, is going to continue. You know, God willing, fingers crossed he does make it on the plane, because there's a lot of competition in there.
Has to make it.
But you do get the sense that this was a bit of a relief for him. And, you know, and that, like I'm saying, I'm so pleased that 3rd goal was open play, and it was actually a really well-worked goal.
Especially because, just to interrupt you, Jace, we were talking about this off air, about a very, very similar chance he had in the West Ham game. Producer Jamie, I apologise, because I thought it was before that.
I thought it was before
you
that
thought
as well.
But it was exactly the same chance that he put so high. I don't even know how he put it that high against West Ham, but he put it in the roof of the net against Wolves, and it was a good little finish, that.
I think the fact that he had 2 goals under his belt already in that game allows him to be a little bit more natural. Didn't snatch at it. And that game against... There seems to be another one in my mind earlier.
Honestly, tell me about it.
I think there's another one.
It's a different goal, I swear.
But there isn't... I'm pretty sure... Anyway, there have been moments where he has snatched at things.
Yeah, and that's so unlike
and he puts them wide. But I think those 2 penalties maybe have just settled him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. He's so calm, collected. That's what we've known from him.
Ice cold.
Literally. Like, he run from a goal, and you do think... I think there was a goal against Bournemouth last year where he just sort of pretending to shoot. The keeper dived.
Oh, yeah, I remember
dived out of the way.
The feint was beautiful.
And that just epitomises him as a player. But it's, like I said, this season, maybe that injury frustration, there were moments he snatched it. I think even Brentford, when he scored, there was another chance he had where he would always bag that, and he didn't. So he had those moments, but it's just... If he can kind of get that confidence back, that's when you see the best of him, isn't it?
Yeah, and he also spoke after the game as well about he's never really been in this situation before. He's never been injured. He's never had a niggly injury where he's got to manage, and sometimes he's playing through the pain and sometimes he's not, Tobes. So it's new for him, and he's dealing with it. He's finding it a little bit more difficult and saying he's overthinking things when he gets onto the pitch, and he's like, oh, am I good enough to do that? And should I be doing that? But when we see Cole Palmer just being Cole Palmer, that's when you get the best out of him. And I think he sort of knows that now.
And something I think that really summed him up as a player in terms of that, like him overthinking seems wrong where... Do you remember that Conference League final where I think he said after the game he was bored of all the sideways and backwards?
Just give me the ball.
And he just tried stuff. Yeah. And that's what's been so good about him, especially that first year under Poch, where it's like, he just tries things. You know, he's not overly thinking anything in terms of doubting whether he can do something or pull it off. Like, he would just do it anyway. So to get in his own head, obviously, like I said, the injury is something new he's dealing with, so maybe that's why that's come about. Like, it's just something you have to shake off as he gets used to it, I suppose.
Is his injury a worry? Because I can't quite work out if he's playing through the pain, because he's quite clearly not fully fit, right? This isn't. I know he scored a hat-trick and it was a brilliant hat-trick, but is he fully fit, and how do we go about managing this, especially with the World Cup in the summer, and England need Cole Palmer on that plane?
Impossible to know. The fact that he was out for nearly 2 months is a long time. That is in a season. That's a long time. The fact that we actually managed without him is to the credit of everyone connected at the club at that particular time, because we actually did manage to get ourselves through it. I couldn't envisage a world in which Cole Palmer didn't play and we would still actually win games, or certainly consistently. Yeah. But I think there is a concern. And, you know, like I said, players deal with things in different ways. Whenever a Chelsea player goes injured, we all worry. Reece, of course, particularly, has been out the side recently. You know, apparently it's not that bad. But, you know, managing him, Fofana, Lavia, you know, Colwell's got to come back.
You
know,
has anyone seen Lavia?
You know, but there's a lot of that. The medical team, there's a lot to manage and make sure they get it right. You would rather have a fit Cole Palmer at the last 6 weeks of the season than overplaying him now and him dipping out, coming back in. And I just think there's been a lot, and mentally for him, that's tough. You know, that's tough.
I'm a little bit surprised just hearing him say that stuff about him overthinking, because like we say, we're so used to just him being so blasé and just like, I'm out there playing football, and he does look like he's playing football alongside his mates in the park. That's how Cole Palmer plays football.
Easy for him. I think football actually, it's easy for him. He's one of those players that makes the tough things look quite easy, and they're not. And I think when you go through that, and now he's a seasoned pro at Chelsea, what's his third season?
Third season,
right.
Yeah.
So, you know, before at City, he wasn't a seasoned pro. He would dip in, come out, play games. But now there's been the expectation levels. Now you've reached that height. I think there's going to be a pressure from within for him to constantly produce this again, and he's been slightly restricted.
Yeah, I mean, he was top 10 Ballon d'Or on the back of what he did at the Club World Cup. Like, that's the echelon he belongs in. Those conversations, he'll know that, and he wants to deliver that. But yeah, it does feel like at the moment there's an unwritten rule that you can't have Reece James and Cole Palmer fully fit at the same time.
I know.
Like, it does feel like have they ever overlapped?
I don't know.
I don't actually know.
The Club World Cup must be the only.
And look what happened.
Yeah.
There's a lot of players that have played together, by the way.
I know.
Oh, yeah.
Lavia, you know.
Lavia hasn't played with anyone.
No, yeah, well, you know.
This is really frustrating, because I love Romeo Lavia.
Yeah, we all do.
Every time, and he's one of those players that, like, when he comes back and he plays for one game, he's absolutely unbelievable.
And it's always Liverpool.
It's always Liverpool.
It's always Liverpool.
Why is it always...
He just
will play at
spawns in for
Anfield later
Liverpool.
on in the season. He absolutely will.
He'll sell someone on a half turn, and then you'll think, oh, what a player. Imagine if we had him every week.
Just back to Cole. We've spoken so much on this pod, Jace, about trying to fit in all of these brilliant players, if they are all fit, and talking Caicedo, Enzo, Reece, Esteval, Palmer. Where do you think we're going to see Cole play more when he does play? Because I don't think... Will he play against Leeds? Probably. Maybe rested against Hull is probably the way that Rosenior will go. But do you think he starts in the 10? Because I prefer Enzo in the 10. Do you think he starts out on the right so Enzo can play in the 10? How do you think
There are so many different permutations of what you've just asked me, right?
I mean, I've said just like three there and then.
Right, OK, so, I mean, Esteval, the thing is, Chelsea's best players, Reece, Moises Caicedo, Esteval, Cole Palmer, and then maybe Enzo in there as well, and then João Pedro, right? Yeah. So I think if you consider those six, there is a way you can play all of that, all of those. It's quite top heavy. You know, you are
going attacking,
but you are playing all of them in their best positions. Reece at right back, Enzo alongside Moises. Then you've got Cole on down at the 10, João Pedro up top, Esteban on the right, Pedro on the left. That to me, and then Chalobah comes in there, and then you have Cucurella. So so there is a way of doing it.
But that's thing is, against like Leeds, for example, at home,
I don't see
you can't play Enzo next to Caicedo. I think that's when you have to go Andre Santos if he's fit next to Caicedo. But then it means Enzo in the 10. Then it means Palmer on the right. So no Esteval.
But then you put Esteval on the left. I don't know. It's so tough. You almost just have to shoehorn in those players because they are just so significantly our best ones. Yeah. I think in that second half is the only time we had against Napoli was when we had Esteval on the right, Palmer in the 10, Enzo Caicedo, João Pedro, and Reece James at right back. It was a pretty good second half.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's the only time I can remember us seeing like that sort of side of the pitch. That right side's great. Like when you list that. especially because Palmer sort of edges towards that side anyway.
I do like Palmer on the right. I do like him occupying that space. I just sometimes don't like it when he is the out-and-out winger, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
He comes
I
inside.
think, yeah, his
That's
best
when he does his
that
best work.
space.
He actually kind of needs gusto when he plays on the right. Just more because Reece can't quite do the running that he used
Never
to. Do you know
thought
what I
I'd
mean?
hear the day.
I know. Yeah.
He needs gusto.
But only when he's on. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I know
When
what
he's
you mean, I
outside,
know what
because he
you
comes
mean.
inside a lot. You need someone who's gonna. And I worry about Reece just if he keeps bombing on up and down.
Honestly,
you know what I mean?
when he misses games, I'm like, better not be injured.
We all are. And himself, he's probably, there's a lot to manage.